Next year, I've got a big birthday coming up. No, not 30. It's the big 40. Yeah, and it might sound a bit cliched, but right now, I don't feel any different. But the trouble is, as a bike racer, you get a bit of a sucker punch at this point because my racing licence next year will say veteran on it. A veteran. Like, seriously, what? There's no two ways about it. As we get older, our bodies change. But I want to keep getting the most out of cycling, as well as staying healthy. Plus, I still like being in reasonable shape, and I'd like to continue that for as long as possible. So, I'm on my way to get some tips from Nick Craig, a man who is seemingly defying the ageing process. At 53 years old, he's still schooling riders less than half his age on a weekly basis in national level cyclocross races. So how is he still going so fast? Admittedly, being blooming fast in the first place is a big help, and Nick Craig is a bit of a legend in these parts. He was one of the world's best mountain bikers in the 1990s and is a multi-time UK national champion in mountain bike and cyclocross. Also, I think he might still be the only person ever to have ridden the Olympic Games road race while wearing mountain bike shoes and with a peak on his helmet. He also used to be like a coach or a mentor to me nearly 20 years ago now. He was trying to teach me how to become a professional cyclist, basically. And so now, at this next major junction, it seems more than fitting to get his insight again. Like from junior to senior, and then senior to veteran. Nick retired as a pro many years ago, but has never stopped racing. And these days, he still competes at elite level as well as age group categories. He's not a full-time bike racer, he has a job. So what's the secret? I've come up to his home in a beautiful part of the north of England to go for a bit of a ride and catch up over a coffee. So do you feel the same on the bike now compared to when you were younger?
I know. I know. How old are you, Simon?
So I'm 39 now.
So I probably did feel the same when I was 39. But
Yeah.
now at 53, I definitely feel. It's really weird. If you said to me, what do I actually feel like when I'm out on my bike? It could be like just riding. When I've got a helmet on my head and you can't see the receding hairline, the grey hair, and I've got glasses on, I do feel young.
Yeah.
Until I really press on the pedals, and then I might feel, and then the realisation of feeling different is actually there. I have to respect. I'm going to say for me it was probably over 50.
So what does that feel like then when you're actually pressing on the pedals?
I love the feeling of speed, but it takes more effort to get to speed, and I don't feel as powerful, so I don't tend to get up to speed as quick. I get quite a lot of comments about, I've always been high cadence,
Yeah.
just naturally like that, but I think I've probably got a bit worse, and I'll get to a climb in a cross race now and I'll definitely just downshift and stay seated.
Right.
Because I don't feel like I've got that big powerful muscle anymore that I probably had when I was in my 30s.
Okay. And have you found ways to compensate that? Because you're still obviously going really fast. You know, in a race, you're up there in the top 10 of the national races.
I just have to do all those. I have to get all the other stuff right. So I have to get the lines right, the grip right, the tyre pressure right, and the actual, where I sit in a race. So just as an example, at weekend there was South Shields racing the round 3 of the national trophy against the under 23s and elite racers, and we go through a sandpit, we turn a couple of corners, and I actively let the riders in front go because I know when I hit the sandpit, I can just pull it back. So I'm trying to be efficient. It's not trying, I have to be.
Yeah.
If I went hard to that sandpit, I'm not sure I'd hold my technique together through the sandpit, yet I know I'm better than them through the sandpit, so it's just knowing what you're good at and being able to, so I'm having to think and be even more efficient than I probably was before.
And what about your recovery now then? Is that slowed down?
It's definitely, well, you're probably better asking Sarah, my wife. She'd tell you that my recovery is really not very good. And I still insist on riding 2 races at a weekend. So I race the V50s first thing on Saturday morning at only at Cross do I do both, because it's sort of intense and short. I race for 40 minutes on Saturday, and then I race for the full 60 minutes on the Sunday. And Sarah will tell you, and she's right, she's always, she mentors me really. She's not a coach, but she knows. And she'd quite simply say to me, what do you expect? It's Tuesday and you're still knackered. And you're still knackered because you race twice a weekend. I'm not going to swear, but she would.
Yeah. So does that mean you can do less on the bike then?
Volume-wise, I don't do less, but intensity, I do less.
Okay. Because that then you find takes it out of you more?
Yeah. And the reason that I still do the volume is because not only is it something I did when I was at my best, it's also something that I love doing. I love riding bikes.
Oh, stealth line. Ah! What training do you do now? I'm fascinated to know. So how are you still so fast?
I train when I can. So my work life is not necessarily that stable. So I can't meet someone on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. So I ride when I can, and I don't really ride with people very often. So it's just me, and I just go, a little window I'll open up, and I've got 2 hours and I'll get my kit on. I'm not one of these guys that will go and ride. I won't put my kit on to go riding for an hour.
Okay.
If I'm going to do that, I'll get on the Wahoo kicker, flick the Zwift on, and I'm in the garage.
And what do you do when you're on the indoor trainer then?
First time on Zwift was last winter. It's a winter thing for me. I wouldn't do it in the summer. I really enjoyed it. Didn't do any races. I did the Donny Chain Gang a couple of times. That was quite good fun to start with.
Yeah.
Bit complicated with all the extra connections needed for the commentary, this, that, and the other. The reality is, the best thing for me was pace partner. So. And
what's per kilo?
I've been told there's quite a few more now.
Right.
Because I think they're quite popular, and I can understand why. The only bike I could afford with my points, because I didn't ride enough, was it was a Spark mountain bike.
Oh yeah.
So I took that on the 4.2 watts per kilo? Was it Anquetil or somebody like that?
Right.
I think it was called. And I would ride it's really interesting because I like doing things differently. So when the road got a bit rough, it got easier for me on the Spark.
Yeah.
When the road went smooth and uphill, it got harder for me. So that was a really good workout, and I'd probably ride that for maybe an hour, and I get off and now I've been riding.
Yeah.
Probably felt like I've been out for 3 hours.
Yeah, so in terms of intensity then, like that's what, a kind of sweet spot type?
Yeah.
Pressing on?
Yeah. I only do that for the winter for the cross, because I don't really want to go out in the dark on the roads around here. So I've done all my volume in the summer, all the bike riding that I love, as many hours, I was trying to think about how many hours I do, and I'd probably say, I might do 2.5 hour ride 3 or 4 times a week. So add that, that's 10 hours, that's quite a big week.
Yeah.
Some weeks I might do 5 or 6 hours. Every now and again, one of those 20-hour weeks does me the world of good. I love it, and it's a lot of low zone 1 with a few efforts. And one of the things that's really nice about that sort of 80-20 training that I kind of rediscovered, it's something that it's something that I used to do naturally, because mountain biking in the 90s, when I was racing cross and mountain bike, the bikes used to beat you up. So I never used to be able to recover quickly. So it used to take until Tuesday night or even Wednesday before I was recovered to train. So what I've noticed in the modern times is, with really good suspension and really good carbon lay, particularly from the bikes we have at Scott, I find that the bikes allow me to go to work on a Monday, drive a van. They allow me to ride my bike, and I'm just not beating up the same. Welcome to the peak, Stefan. I don't know if you got water on there.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, brilliant. Aren't we having a good time?
So then you're kind of doing quite a reasonable amount of volume then, low intensity, but still doing some harder intervals in there, but nothing structured or...
You won't see me turn around in the road. You won't see me repeat something. And the best thing for me is to actually, in Mallorca, it's to go and ride up a hill is, an effort in Mallorca isn't an effort.
Yeah.
Coming from my background in mountain bike, the efforts were disguised by the terrain. So the technicality of a climb would take away the fact that I was doing it. And I'd get to the top of a climb and I wouldn't even know what I've done to myself.
Yeah.
I've done an effort without knowing it.
Do you think that's part of your success then, is kind of doing what you enjoy and not realising that you're training, never having to go training?
Yeah, so my original thing was, you could really say that the original mountain biking was what we call mountain bike marathon now, and if a scientist looked at it, go, that's a time trial effort. You won't get me doing the time trial because time trial is painful, it's horrible, and it hurts. So that fact that it's disguised by what I'm actually doing really, really helps me. And one of the things that I did mention to you earlier on the bike is that if I realised when I was trying to get into the top 10 in the world that I was never going to be on a podium at an Olympics or a World Championships. I accepted that, and I just had a word with myself, and probably Sarah had a word with me as well, which is really helpful as a mentor. Was if you base your happiness on your performance, I would have spent most of my career quite miserable, and I wasn't prepared to do it. So once I realised that it's the whole thing that I'm doing is because I love doing it, that's what's more important than the actual performance.
And what have you changed then from when you were racing 20, 30 years ago? Have you tailored things because of what your body can now do and can't do? Are there things that you're doing now that you didn't used to do, or have you cut things out?
The reality is, as we all get older, we have to recognise that recovery is going to take longer. Now, I was lucky enough for that not really to be noticeable to me till I was 50. Most people notice it more at your age.
Yeah.
Maybe early 40s, you get away with it. I think someone, especially of your level, you'll get into your 40s and you'll be, and I know you've got a busy life and you've not had the opportunity that I had to carry on riding as much, but you've still got muscle memory. Your body still knows how to hurt itself. It knows how to recover. It knows how to be efficient. So I think what you'll do is you'll find with this cross season, this challenge you've got coming up, you'll remind yourself of all those things and you'll do really well with it. But you may find in your later 40s, I think it's probably when you may start to notice the recovery is going to take that bit longer.
And what about strength? Because that's one of the things people say, as you get older you lose muscle mass. I think you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
And things like flexibility. So do you do anything off the bike?
I do a lot of yoga.
Yeah. And is that a recent addition?
Probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I've always done a lot of stretching, but I was finding stretching just seemed to be a bit of a bore and a chore. Whereas, just finding some yoga, following a routine, YouTube, has been really good for me. Well, the other thing that I mentioned to you was, like a lot of people in lockdown, paddle boards were a big thing, and I've really noticed that if I do yoga and I do some paddle boarding, my core and delivery of power, what power I still can manage, is so much better for having a stronger core. If I could go back to the 90s when I was in my 20s, I would have done that then.
And so what advice would you give to older cyclists who are looking to stay fit or get fit? What are your golden rules?
I would highly, highly suggest the low intensity 80-20 rule. So 80% zone 1, touching zone 2, and then max 20% doing efforts that are, do them how you like. If you're the type of person that enjoys them, tuck in, grit your teeth on your Zwift, on your Wahoo kicker or whatever, or go out and find a hill and do it out on the trail. Or for me, it might be find a technical climb and actually just do it within a ride. If I don't really tell myself I'm ever going to do that. I just go out, see what I feel like. If I feel good, I'll just get out of breath. Simple as that. And I would say it's really important to remember in the veteran categories, just remember that if you've done cycling through your life, all you've ever done is thought every year on year you'll get stronger and better and fitter. And that goes into your 30s, you get this bigger engine, you've built all this stuff, and then all of a sudden you get to 40 and you're at the peak. You're in the golden spot, Simon. The UCI actually allow 39-year-olds, so it's 39 to 44. This race that you're challenging yourself with is a big one for you, and you're at the peak of the category.
All right, Nick, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and great catching up as well.
Yeah.
As we were nearing the end of our ride, we stopped at Charlie's Cairn. It's a memorial to Charlie Craig, Nick and Sarah's youngest son, who tragically passed away, aged just 15. I know that Charlie continues to inspire his parents and many others to ride and race, and it feels to me that as we get older, life often changes our motivations and perspective, as it has done for Nick. When I was driving up here today, I think I was kind of expecting that the answer to our question would be something simple like 15-minute intervals done at 80% of your FTP, or 3 hours of sweet spot a week, or another similarly simple box to tick. And I guess to a certain extent, we have kind of found that. Nick does loads of steady zone 1, zone 2 riding, but he still does real high intensity work as well, but it's unstructured and also allowing for those slightly longer recovery times. Not to mention, of course, the off-bike work as well, so the yoga and in Nick's case, paddle boarding as well, to help increase his core strength. But I think for me, there have been two really big take-homes from this. Firstly, in that the real secret to cycling longevity is enjoyment. So Nick is clearly still in great shape. Some of that is going to be down to genetics, I'm sure. Much of it is down to the riding that he still does. But actually, he wouldn't be able to still be in great shape if he didn't absolutely love riding his bike. And that, I think, is the key. So the long, steady rides are his thinking time, and those high intensity intervals, as I say, are unstructured, and they're done just for the sheer thrill and enjoyment of it. And then the other thing for me was Nick's point about not linking your happiness to your performance. Now, that was something that I had consciously uncoupled years ago in racing, out of necessity, basically, getting a head kicked in, week out. But now in my general riding, I definitely need to do that again. Now I want to say huge thanks to Nick and also his wife Sarah for putting up with us today and having us hanging around and feeding us soup. If you've appreciated what Nick's had to say, please give this video a big thumbs up as well. And also get involved, because I'm sure loads of you out there have also got tricks and tips and secrets on how to stay fast and keep loving riding as we get older. So get involved in the comments section as well.